Supervisor Cruz. Here. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye. Here.
Councilman Mozzarella.
Aye.
Receiver of taxes, here.
I'm now going to ask our town clerk to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, if you please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the first public hearing?
We have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Montauk.
Okay, any member of the board want to be heard on item number one? I do not have any slips. Does anybody want to be heard on item number one that did not sign in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Aye. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Mozzarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please go next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Hewlett.
Okay, any member of the board want to be heard on this? Okay, I do not have any slips. Does anybody who wants to be heard on item number two that did not sign in? Okay, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Mozzarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops near Rockville Center.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? I do have a slip on this one. I have Christine O'Reilly. Hey, how you doing? If you can go to the back mic and give your name and address. Okay, cool. Thank you. Hey, how you doing? If you just give me your name and address.
Christine O'Reilly, 24 Yale Place, Rockville Center, New York.
Okay.
So I've been in contact with multiple people since October of 21 about getting a stop sign or a crossing guard put on Tanglewood Road and Lakeview Avenue on the main road. There's a crosswalk there for the high school kids. It's gotten nowhere. I traveled from Rockville Center to Malvern every day to go to work, and nobody lets the kids cross. I almost saw a kid get hit by a school bus once because the school bus couldn't even see the crosswalk. Around the crosswalk are multiple auto body shops. So they park on the sidewalk, they park in the street, the tow trucks are there, regular cars are there. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. So I just saw all these stop signs.
That's on like the west side, right? The west side of Peninsula.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like right near Malvern High School, the back end of Malvern.
Gotcha.
So I saw all these stop signs possibly getting put in on Tanglewood Road, but I didn't notice one on the corner of Lakeville Road. Lakeview Road, sorry.
Oh, we sneak up on me. Maybe name and address to identify yourself.
Tom Green, representing Traffic Control Division. Lakeview Avenue is a county road, and the police department would have to do the survey to see if a crossing guard is warranted.
So obviously it's a county road, so we don't control that. But the local legislator would be Kavon Abrams. If you'd like, we could maybe facilitate contact information with Kavon Abrams, staff, him, or the county executive about looking at the road to see if warranting a stop sign. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I've gone through numerous people, so I've been happy.
That's okay. Maybe right now you just go to the back and get all the information so we can follow up. You okay with that? So he's going to meet you in the back and we'll facilitate this, okay?
Excellent, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Have a good day.
I don't have any other slips on item number 3. Is anybody who wishes to be heard that did not sign in? Okay, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Supervisor Clayton.
Affirmative.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller. And Councilman Mozzarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Oceanside.
Okay, member of the board wish to be heard? If you don't have any slips on item number 4, and anybody wants to talk on item number 4 that didn't sign in, if not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Mozzarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed law handicap parking on public streets in Elmont, Oceanside, and Roosevelt.
Any member of the board wish to be heard? I do not have any slips. Anybody wants to be heard on item number 5? Did not sign in?
Yes.
If, okay, great. If you give me name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Meeting J. Meriday, I'm just concerned with regard to, I guess, the installation and maintenance of the handicap parking. I can't speak for the roads in Oceanside, but many of the town roads in locations like Elmont and Roosevelt, where I used to live, are in deplorable conditions. So I'm just trying to understand how this is going to be implemented. I know in some locations where you have handicap parking, there's also the blue lines for people to be able to better understand that that space is for handicap. But if the roads are torn up, in most cases, the lighting is bad on many of the town streets in those communities, what is being done to address the overall safety, not just providing potential parking? If they can't get to the parking spot, what good is it?
Ms. Meredith, this is in relation to the stop signs in these particular locations. If you have a question regarding those particular locations, you know, and I'm sure Mr. Reed could identify that with the installation at the request of a homeowner who is handicapped that wants it at their desired location.
Correct.
That's what's on the calendar right now.
I understand that.
Okay.
You're still talking about handicap parking, which impacts the street, is it not?
No, it's in front of their home.
Which is
On
on
the street, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
the request of the homeowner.
Okay, but it's still a question that's important for many of these residents who can't come to these meetings with regard to the condition of the road. So if you have a sign there, they can't get
Do
to
you
the
have a
road.
particular road you're talking about?
I can get you roads, but I know that Delisle itself is in bad condition. Elmwood Avenue is in bad condition. So there are other roads. Prospect Street, Manhattan.
I know.
Roosevelt's a square mile, and the majority of their roads that are town roads are in bad shape.
Okay.
Baldwin as well, where I live.
But that's okay. But I do know our engineering commissioner is here. Where are you? Brian, how are you? If you would like to go in the back, he'll take a list of these roads and he can do a review of them.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be talking about roads at this particular juncture, so, you know, I can have a conversation with him at another time. I just wanted on the record that these communities are being impacted by bad roads and poor lighting. So it's great that you're actually administering handicap parking for these residents, but they're still having trouble getting to the spot itself. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard at this time? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the items.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Guzman. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarelli.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the item on the decision calendar.
Yes, we have one decision this evening. It's the application of 3195 Austin Boulevard, Owners LLC, for rezoning from Business X District to Residence CA District in Island Park.
Okay, does any member of the board have a motion? Does anybody have a
I
motion?
move the application be denied.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Guzman. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarelli.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
Yes, we have items 7 through 54 on the administrative item.
Okay. Does any member of the board wish to speak on any items of the administrative calendar? Okay, got a couple slips here. Mike Turi?
Thank you very much.
How you doing? Please give me name and address for the record. Thank you.
Michael Torrey, 23 Indiana Avenue, Long Beach. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and other board members for your time. So I see that this resolution number 54 includes a redistricting hearing on February 7th at 10:30 in the morning. Are there any plans to have another hearing in the evening when more town residents would be available?
Mr. Supervisor, there are plans to have another hearing after that. We haven't identified the date yet. It will be probably the week of the 13th.
Okay, and will a message about when that is scheduled be put up on the town website? More importantly, will there be an email sent to town residents to inform them about it? I actually received a copy of an email about the rescheduling of the work session. That was the first time I'd ever seen an email go out associated with redistricting, and I was hoping that maybe an email like that could be made available for the meeting that comes.
Taking our advisement, the last meeting, a number of residents, and apparently we were unaware that the county was having a meeting at the same time, and there was a recommendation to move the last meeting to, after the residents brought to attention. Taking our advisement as well.
It was a citywide redistricting meeting at the same time, so it was reasonable to move the meeting.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They brought to attention, so, we were glad to accommodate it, So, like I said, we'll take our advisement, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my other question is, what did you think of the recommendation that was made by the temporary redistricting council on Thursday of last week in the afternoon?
Well, quite frankly, the council didn't make any recommendation. The redistricting board took into account numerous comments by the public over the course of the 4 hearings that we had, and they did not recommend that the town board adopt the map. They listed specifically, and almost all of them were the recommendations of the people that came to the hearing to the town board to consider. So I believe the town board in the next couple of weeks, after listening to the residents, will consider those things and make an educated and proper decision.
I appreciate your answering that, but I was asking the town board members what they thought of the recommendation.
Like I said, I think the town attorney answered it appropriately and in conjunction of how the board is hearing it, and I think that was very respectful of the process and how the procedure is. So,
thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
No problem at all. Thanks for coming.
You got it.
Next, I have Felix Bertacci. If you can give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Felix Bertacci, Franklin Square. On number 18, the cemetery fees. Do these fees cover the entire cost, or is additional tax dollars used to subsidize the cemetery, items that are on in this resolution?
Thank you, Craig Mallow, Deputy Commissioner, Department of General Services. The fee structure that's in front of you, I can't say covers the full budget of the town of Hempstead. The cemetery comes about 97% of the cemetery cost. It will cover 100% of internment costs for any money that does come in. I'll point out that the cost of an interment today is $3,800. The cost of an interment tomorrow would be $3,900. There's significant savings in here for the residents, eliminating the fees for veterans markers, foundations. There's credits in here for people who are veterans, first responders, and so forth. So a large majority of the customers that we see will actually get a reduction in the next year or so.
I think the fees should cover the cost of the cemetery. Items number 30, 32, and 36 each they reference additional documents, records, and those aren't provided. I can't find them. Are they there?
Which ones again, Mr. McCutcheon?
30, 32, and 36.
With regard to 32, that settlement, actually, we got the final paperwork on it, I believe, yesterday. So it was put on the calendar. It involved a person. The supervisor is instructed to be more proactive in resolving matters and not having to spend too much time and money on legal fees and litigation. So this gentleman brought a claim to us. He was working out of title at the animal shelter, and after we reviewed it, we found that it was valid. So it was settled. Basically, it was settled for no money. All we did with regard to Mr. Minto is we put him in the proper category. He got a small raise as a result of him going from one position to the animal shelter. So I think we probably did the right thing.
No, I'm not questioning mean any of the right thing, wrong thing, but number 30 and 36 also don't have the additional items. By state law, you're required to put this. I'm not sure how the town board is going to vote on something they can't see. If I can't see it, I don't know if they can see it. How are they going to vote on something that they can't see? And I don't think it's appropriate for them to vote on something they can't see. So will you provide the data for 30 and 36 and 32?
Absolutely. With regard to 36, that's an EAC, basically an EAC contract that the town has had for a number of years, and we're just renewing the contract.
In the future, it would be great if you could put it on the calendar within 24 hours in accordance with the open meetings law. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Tucker. Next I have Lori Danny. Next I have Emil Vereni. And if you can name and address for the record, thanks.
Emil Verani, 65 Edgeworth Street, Valley Stream. I just want to follow up on the redistricting item number 54. So you said, specifically to the town attorney, you said that the town took into account the input of residents, but when are we going to see the proposed maps to see that?
That'll be formulated, and I suspect that within a very short period of time, after consulting with the town board, we'll be able to publish a map well in advance of the hearing.
Okay, is there like a state law that says how many days? Is it 7 days?
Well, actually, the John Lewis Act, which a lot of people refer to, doesn't go into effect until the middle of this year. However, we're trying to comply with all the terms because we thought that the state was giving us a guideline, and that specifically says 7 days. So I suspect that we'll meet that hurdle.
Okay, and at these work meetings that you're talking about, will the map makers be there?
I don't think that's been decided yet, but there'll be responses, whether it be from me or someone else.
But, you know, you said at one of the redistricting hearings that this is a work in progress, so I mean, shouldn't you plan on the map makers being there? There's an awful lot of money being put for these map makers to put together a map.
I have to be honest with you, just reviewing the town's records from 10 years ago, no map maker showed and testified that map was legally challenged and we were found to be. Okay, so we're going to comply with the law. There's no requirement that the map maker be there. Quite frankly, as I said before to the last gentleman, the public made some comments. The commission agreed with most of the comments. Now it's up to the town board to make a decision. They'll deliberate and we'll do it in a legally sufficient way.
Okay, because I can't speak for what happened 10 years ago, but there are a lot of people who were very concerned with the maps, and I'm not sure, you know, there were 2 hearings before the maps went out, and it seemed like the public input for those maps wasn't really put in. So I think like knowing what's going on in their head is something that's valuable. I mean, is it not?
Well, I have to be honest with you. Mr. Supervisor, I want to thank you for what's been going on as far as the communications department, because one of your themes and other people's themes is that we haven't let the general public know what's going on. And quite frankly, if you were at our last meeting, you know this room was almost completely full. And then I then went a couple of days later to the county's meeting. The county's been meeting a lot longer than us. And for those, and there are some people who are there that were at that meeting with me, know that there weren't many people at the county. So I have to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, if we compare ourselves to the county, the people in the town of Hempstead know what's going on, and they've been coming out and voicing their concerns.
Yeah, but you're saying it's put a proper notice in. You didn't spend any money on mailers like you did to promote a congressional candidate on redistricting. You didn't put it on social media, so how could you say that's well noticed? You know, you're criticizing residents for saying it's something that's completely valid. It wasn't even on social media.
I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm telling you that we're doing a good job.
We were criticizing the meetings.
As far as people coming to our meetings. People know what's going on and they're coming in.
Okay. Well, I would just hope, as a comment to be taken under advisement that the map makers come. I think it's awfully important. I think what we've seen from these hearings is that the residents are very concerned about the maps and the impact that they'll have for the next 10 years. And I think the least that the town can do is make sure that they can come, and I'm sure it can be arranged to be put on Zoom. I mean, these meetings are live streamed, so I'm sure there's good internet here. They can come via Zoom. I think that's something that's awfully important. And we have much better internet compared to 10 years ago. I just want to note that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I know you didn't hear your name before, so I'm going to go back. Lori Campbell. Hey, how you doing? Just give me name and address for the record.
Lori Tan, Clubhouse Road in Merritt. Okay, I'm here about the open space that we have on Clubhouse and John Street, that since the pandemic, the whole neighborhood has had a place to go and meet and get together for half hour, sometimes an hour, and we bring our dogs.
Ms. Dane, right now we're doing the administrative calendar. We have a public comment after. Do you have something on the administrative calendar in particular?
No,
We're going to do it. We'll do it. Well, in fact, I'll tell you right now. I'll make sure.
That's fine.
Put number 1 there, and we'll call you first. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Next, I have Claudia Barecki.
Claudia Barecki, 28 Washington Drive, Merritt, president of the Belmont Merritt Democratic Club. According to the legal dictionary, the word must refers to a mandatory requirement, imposes a duty or grants a right which is mandatory or imperative. The legal community strongly prefers using the word must as the clearest way to express a requirement or obligation. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires, quote, that if there is racially polarized voting and if a minority opportunity district can be drawn, then it must be drawn. 3 maps provided by the Elmont Cultural Center and 2 maps provided by attorney Fred Brewington, the Legal Defense Fund, and others all show that 3 majority-minority districts can be drawn. So the town of Hempstead has no alternative. 3 majority-minority districts must be drawn, according to the law. Even though hundreds of your constituents pleaded with the redistricting commission not to dilute their voices by putting minority communities with districts that has nothing in common, the commission ignored their request and motioned that the commission only consider population variation and keeping communities whole. No mention was made to consider the mandate that if a majority-minority district can be drawn, then it must be drawn. Violation is established if a political subdivision creates districts wherein, quote, the ability of members of the protected class to elect candidates of their choice or to influence the outcome of elections is impaired. Placing Elmont in a district with Garden City clearly violates that mandate. The 2020 census shows that 47% of the town of Hempstead is people of color. The data shows that 3 majority-minority districts must be drawn. With Proud Boys marching down our streets and racist remarks from some of our neighbors hitting national news, it's more important than ever that the town of Hempstead show the world that its leaders are not racist. There's only one way to prove it. Don't approve maps that violate the Voting Rights Act. Avoid unnecessarily burdening your constituents with millions of dollars, tax dollars in a court battle that will only wind up with maps submitted by the Elmont Cultural Center or the Legal Defense Fund anyway. That's what the results from the 2023 census warrants. We're counting on you to do the right thing. The town of Hempstead must do what it must. Approve the map that creates 3 majority-minority districts. Thank you.
You can submit a letter, absolutely. Next I have Nita Meredith. Bless you. Name and address, please, thanks.
Rita J. Merriday, County Hempstead resident. My questions initially start with item 13, 34, 41, and 43. Just want to know if there's any diverse suppliers being utilized for any of those contracts. Since the town of Hempstead, and we can dance around the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but we have state mandates that require a certain percentage as far as inclusion of service-disabled veterans and minority and women businesses, and I just can't seem to fathom why we continue in this.
Hi, Ms. Meredith. Brian Kunzig, Commissioner of Engineering.
Okay.
Contracts 41 and 43, items 41 and 43, they were publicly bid, and we don't have any requirement on how that contractor supplies workers, except for that they're from Nassau or Suffolk. We don't have a minority or women requirement.
Okay, what about the contractor themselves? If you're receiving federal and state funding,
There is no federal.
There's no federal and state funding?
No.
Okay, you're receiving tax dollars for that. Taxpayers work for federal and state government. But I digress. 13 and 14, and 13 and 34. And can somebody answer my question, or my clock is going to be 30 seconds away?
Mr. Lombardi's walking up to the mic right now.
Okay.
Hello, Ms. Meredith.
Hi there. Good to see you too.
Dominic Lombardi, Deputy Town Controller. On those contracts, we do not have any requirements as well for minority or business women or business.
Or service-disabled veterans.
Or service-disabled veterans.
Isn't that interesting?
We do have a very good program for service-disabled veterans.
Okay, but we need more than programs, we need actual contracts to create jobs. But this is a township that seems to be inside of the United States. It doesn't seem to have any kind of diversity platform, but I digress. Items 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, let's say 21 to 29, it mentions sponsorships for the calendar. Does that sponsorship include production as well as printing and mailing costs? Are we going to have any other potential candidates listed on that right before any election that's going to be beneficial for them to get votes?
Again, Ms. Meredith, those are sponsorships for our calendar that goes to every resident in the town of Hempstead. There is no specific expenses that goes to other than to cover the cost for the whole calendar itself. So printing and anything else that we can cover the cost on, we do.
So that means we are the we.
No.
Taxpayers
Yeah,
are
the
we.
town of Hempstead, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Item 30, when it says ratifying and confirming an agreement, I'm just curious as to what was the selection process for this particular company, and is there any type of familiar relationship?
Again, in this case, there is no relationship. This is a very local company, and everybody is well aware of who they are. Cablevision is one of the biggest companies around on Island to do this and provide that service to us. So.
Okay. Now, lastly, with regard to, well, actually 18, someone mentioned a modified schedule as far as the credits and fees, and it incorporated a discussion about the veterans. I just need a little more information on that and the particulars. How do veteran families actually know about this and can avail themselves of this? And my clock is just ticking off.
No, it's actually not ticking it off.
Okay, well, it's ticking 3 seconds.
You know it wasn't, Ms. Meredith.
10, no, I'm watching it.
Okay.
My side is very good. 20.
Yes, hold on. If you identify yourself.
Greg Malo, Deputy Commissioner, Department of General Services. So there are 2 programs in here that are a benefit to veterans. One is we're removing the fee to install the federally provided grave marker for veterans. The federal government provides it for free, and I think that the town of Hempstead is going to provide it for free going forward for the installation purposes of it. That will get known to the homeowner or the family at the time they fill the application out with the federal government. That's a process that they do with the federal government. The internment credit is a new program, and I'll leave it to the supervisor of the town board how best to share that information with the public. But we make it known to all our funeral homes and all our clients that it will be out there as soon as it gets adopted.
And it's still significantly less than in a private facility, correct?
Well, the cost of an interment is $3,900 compared to other cemeteries on Long Island, upwards of $12,000 to $18,000. So we have not raised the price of the plots themselves, just the cost of the interments, which require the equipment and necessary safety features.
And there was an interment fee that was not being provided to the veterans in the town of Hempstead, which doesn't seem to be a part of the United States since they don't apply federal mandates.
Well, the fee for interments was a flat fee for everyone.
Right.
This will provide veterans and first responders and active military personnel a $500 credit on that interment. So it will reduce the cost of the interment by $500.
I see. Thank you. And we will get more information about that at some point in time. I guess that's on to the town. Okay, lastly, item 54. I believe the town attorney made a statement, I think it was a little incorrect with regard to the counting process, and I did make the town board aware myself that there was a conflict with the meeting, with the 10:30 meeting, 11 o'clock meeting, to check the record with regard to that. So I want to be clear about that. The majority of those county meetings were well attended, but we still need to make sure the residents are informed. And they were not informed because of efforts from the town of Hempstead. They were informed by efforts of the residents. Lastly, the Baldwin in particular, we'd like to know who is our third representative on the third map.
Thank you.
On the current map, if I could get an answer to that
want to be
question,
fair,
because I had other seconds that were being kicked away on the
Ms.
clock.
Meredith,
I'd like to know the answer to that question.
Thank you, Ms.
Supervisor
Meredith.
Clayton.
Thank you very much.
So you don't have
I
to
do want to
follow
let it be
the
known that there were a number of residents at the last meeting that were nice enough to bring our attention to the county hearing. It was, so it wasn't just one person, it was a number of residents that expressed it.
I said I was one, and I still would.
I understand, but next I have a slip from Daniel. Thank you, Ms. Meredith, thank you so much.
Can I have an answer to the question?
Ms. Meredith, thank you so much.
You're not going to answer the question?
No, Ms. Meredith, thank you. Daniel, correctional?
You're not going to answer the
Thank you.
question. Maybe you have to wait to
Okay,
get
thank
more
you, Ms.
credential
Meredith. Thank you.
checking since
All
the
right.
third district didn't do so well, right?
Hi, Mr. Crutchfield, if you give your name and address for the record, thanks.
My name is Daniel Carciolo, 8 Williamson Street, East Rockaway, the Grady Village of East Rockaway. I'm also here to speak on number 54. Who is the current representative for D'Esposito? I guess is our first question. Or is there any kind of work on that? That's kind of what Ms. Meredith was asking for here. I'm not sure if you feel like answering that.
Councilman D'Esposito, as you know, successfully was elected to U.S. Congress. We're very, very fortunate to have a local congressman to help lobby. And right now there's a vacancy in that position.
Okay, is there, maybe that's another time. Gerrymandering allows politicians to choose which voters listen to and who to ignore. No matter our background, our zip code, our political party, voters deserve the right to pick their leaders. Politicians should not get to pick their leaders. We've had a lot of appointments in this town over and over again where incumbents all of a sudden, like D'Esposito's position, will now be an incumbent when we run for a special election in November. I'd like to make a recommendation that the town board consider creating, going forward, an independent, fully transparent redistricting committee that is nonpartisan and not even related to the board or the town of Hempstead. We would put forth actual people, actual voters that need to be here on a regular basis. They would come and actually be on this redistricting committee that adhere to strict guidelines to ensure accurate and equitable representation for all voters. We need to take redistricting out of the hands of political parties and put voters back in control. I would recommend that the board watch every single redistricting committee hearing and listen to every single person that put themselves on record and read every single submission now that we have the opportunity all of a sudden to submit information to the board to understand that equity is the key. Equity is the key to equal representation. We do not have a board that looks like the town of Hempstead, period, end of story. I'd like to back up Claudia and say major minority districts should be created. If we are going to sit here in the next couple of weeks and look at the Skyline map as the right way to move forward, it's the largest township in the United States. We are not representing the people of the town of Hempstead. We need to look deep inside. We need to make real changes, and we need to make sure that the voters are heard and that voters select their districts, not politicians select their voters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. I don't have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Does anybody wish to be heard administrative calendar that didn't sign in? Okay, may I please have a motion? May I please have a motion on the administrative calendar, Deputy Supervisor?
I move the administration calendar. I'm sorry, I move the administration calendar. From 1 through from 7 through 54.
And a second.
Second. Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby? Aye. Councilwoman Miller? Aye. Councilman Musgrove?
Aye. Okay. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I did put something in there. I guess I didn't get it.
Excuse me?
Oh, on the administrative calendar?
Administrative calendar is finished. And we just moved it. If there's something that you want to speak to, I'm sure we have it.
Yeah, sure.
You can make comments when you finish.
Then what was your name?
Sherman Thompson.
Did you sign it?
I did.
I have you signed in for the public comment, not the administrative calendar.
Thank you for the clarification.
Oh, no problem. Okay, I just wanted to just make sure. So, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we join.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby? Councilwoman Miller? Aye. Councilman Musgrove?
We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we will open up the public comment section of the meeting. So why don't we say we're going to reconvene at 7:45? 7:45. Formal town board meeting has adjourned. The town board will remain to listen to the comments of the residents. I have a number of residents signed in, and we can start off with Felix Bertocci. Oh! No, wait, hold on, Felix, hold on. Mike. No, Lori, did I get you, Lori? I did get you, Lori, right? Did you good? I remember I said I have to be number 1. Come on up, Lori. Hi, how you doing? Just give me the name and address of the record.
Okay, Lori Tan, Clubhouse Road in Merrick. Okay. On Clubhouse Road and the adjoining streets, there's an open space. I've lived here 45 years, and nothing's allowed there. There's no ball playing, no dogs, no golf, no breathing. I don't know what it's for. Okay? Since the pandemic, people have come, they were closed up in their houses, nobody could see anybody, and we've been walking around, walking our dogs, and we've been meeting in this open space. Everybody there, I've never met half of them before, and now we have a community. We get together maybe a half hour in the morning, maybe half hour at night. In between, some people come in and out. Everybody cleans up after their dog, but more important, it's a gathering place for the neighborhood. People get to meet each other, get to talk, see a friendly face. Hi, how are you? When you were cooped up in the house all the time. It was safe, it was outside. So the other day, for a couple of weeks, they came and they used to lock the gates at night because kids would go in there and drink and leave beer bottles. And in the morning at 8 o'clock, they would open it up again. A couple of weeks ago, the town started blocking the gates open so we couldn't go in there with our dogs because the dogs would run out. Or if people had their children or their grandchildren there playing and running around and not playing organized ball or anything, the kids would run out the gate and could get hit by a car because people on Clubhouse do not stop at stop signs. They go 40, 50 miles an hour, and it becomes a hazard. Last week, because somebody's complaining that lives near there, they took the gates off the whole park or open space. And now it's totally dangerous. And we've stood there, and then the other day a commissioner or somebody came by and said, if you guys go in there with your dogs, you're going to be getting summonses for $500, $600. I mean, we live here, it's a community, it's a gathering spot for people, especially during this pandemic, and it's ridiculous that we can't go there for an hour or 2 hours totally in the daytime or an hour in the weekend, in the morning and the afternoon, to meet up with people, to say hello, and just socialize that we don't have in our community, especially during a pandemic. And I think it's ridiculous to spend money, the taxpayers' money, to hang signs that say, no organized ball playing. That was really important, to take down the no ball playing and put no organized ball playing. And no dogs, no golf, or whatever else they want to put. And I think it's a concern, and we have a lot of people here from our neighborhood who would like to address this.
Like I said, this is the first I heard of it. Perhaps if, Frank, you here? Oh, Frank's here. That's Frank Zangler, he's my Parks Commissioner. I'll ask Frank to maybe to talk about it. You know, I don't know what it is, we'll take a look at it. Look, if the dog thing can always be a safety issue, so I get it. You know, I have a dog, but I get that some people freak out with dogs, because some dogs frighten. So I said, let Frank talk to you. Let's find out what the concern was. Let's find out what the complaints were, and we'll see if we can kind of resolve it in an amicable way. Is that fair enough?
Because I guarantee you that most of the people that complain are not.
I got you. So Frank's going to go right in the back with you right now. Frank? Okay.
A couple more people.
By the way, this is what I'll tell you. Just for a minute, when you sign up for the administrative calendar, you know it's your opportunity to talk for 3 minutes. If there are some residents that go in the back with you and are talking to Frank right now, if they want to come back and say something after, we'll flag a couple of names. I'll make sure they. But if you go to the back right now, Frank, we promise.
Okay.
Pretty please. All right. So that's Frank. If anybody wants to go back there with Frank, my Parks Commissioner right now, and talk about it, he'll be delighted to go in the back of the room.
So this holds our spot to speak later if we come back out?
Maybe if I let him see it. This is what I'll say. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to go through everybody else that's here, and then if you feel like you want to come back up and talk, we'll send somebody back there to ask individual names that don't respond. Like right now, I'm going to call Francesca Sarah. Okay, how you doing? If you can name and address for the record.
Yes, Francesca Sarah. I live in Huntington. Good evening, town board members and Supervisor Clavin. My name is Francesca Sarah, and I've been a volunteer at the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter since 2019. I was also a resident of Wantagh for the past 10 years and just moved. I come from a family that is relatively active in local politics. Anyone who's been around the Republican Party long enough may recognize the name of my late grandfather, Anthony or Tony Durso. Although I didn't inherit a passion for politics, I do have one for animal welfare. I'm here to speak about the shelter's former trainer, Ms. Christy Fanti. I say former because it was exactly 1 week ago today that Ms. Fanti resigned from her position after being repeatedly undermined and disrespected by this administration. You'll be hard-pressed to find a trainer more well-respected by her peers, co-workers, volunteers, and adopters. The shelter's success over the past 6 years is in large part due to Christie's contributions as a devoted trainer. This administration's recent treatment of Ms. Fanti has been abhorrent, to say the least. The need to appease one very loud and litigious critic has gone unchecked for far too long. Your job is to stand up for your constituents, the taxpayers, not to fulfill the endless demands of one person. We are well aware of the so-called animal advocates' unsavory history at the shelter. Never an employee, yet somehow given authority to co-sign on hundreds of euthanasia orders. This is all a matter of public record. Why would you want to align yourselves with someone like that? You, Donald Clavin, have the power to right this wrong and finally offer Ms. Fanti a full-time position. I implore you to be brave and do just that. It is time to stand up and get out from under the thumb of this bully for good. Do the right thing and offer Ms. Fanti the well-deserved full-time position as shelter trainer. You can be sure your constituents won't forget your decision come November.
Joe Carol Brodsky. It could be the America group. We'll come back to that. Lee Brodsky is going to be the America. Karina Weiss.
You're doing a few minute address for the record, thanks.
Good evening, Karina Weiss. I live in Hicksville, New York. I've been a town Hempstead animal shelter volunteer for 6 years now. I've seen Christy Fonte start at her job from day one and go through challenges, difficulties, and changes, but she always had the best interest of the dogs as her priority. I've adopted 3 dogs under her care and leadership, followed by updates. As an adopter, I always received pre- and post-adoption guidance from her, and I succeeded in all adoptions. As a volunteer, I've seen the positive changes and progress made at the shelter with her work and example. That drove us to be a bigger and better team of handlers. Some of the most difficult dogs thrived under her influence, such as the boy. I have a question for all members of the board, if I may. Do any of you own any pets?
Ms. Weiss, this is just so this is a public section comment where we listen to your comments.
If so, you know the importance of a qualified and compassionate professional working with animals. After all, they do become members of our families. I'm here to please ask you to hire Christy Fonte as a full-time trainer at our shelter. Tojas is one of the biggest shelters in this nation, and we need to set the example. Make it right, don't make it about politics, don't take away the progress that we've worked so hard with her. Things you should consider without a qualified trainer behaviorist. First, the cost of not having proper evaluations done, and that could reflect in adoption returns. The cost of keeping animals in the facility with no social skills, meaning more behavior issues. Animals stuck in the shelter system without the proper training protocols will be more costly than hiring her full-time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next I have Phyllis Federesi. How you doing? If you give me your name and address for the record, thanks.
Hello, my name is Phyllis Federisi. I'm a town of Hempstead resident for 29 years. I have come here tonight to talk about Christy Fonte and the animal shelter. 5 volunteers plus myself met with Charlie Malone on Monday, January 16th, after he reached out to one of our volunteers after some of us sent emails to the members of the board. He wanted to have a meeting with us. We thought being, as he is the liaison between the shelter and the town board, he would help us. He said he would bring our concerns to you, as you were not only his immediate boss, Mr. Clavin, but his personal friend of 20 years. Well, it's been 8 days, and we have not heard from Charlie. So here we are. Christy has been doing her job at the shelter for 6 years, as a consultant at first, and then as a part-time employee. She has had to wear a bulletproof vest every day due to the constant vicious attacks by the leader of a very small group of people with loud, relentless voices. Still, she came to work every day and worked with the staff to take care of the dogs. Her passion is the dogs. She has the qualifications. She has been doing the job for 6 years. Why? Why is she not the full-time trainer? Is it because of the leader of this very little group of people? Little groups of people get taken over by larger groups of people every day. Placate one, anger many. So to sum this up, a very passionate animal lover started a petition to you, Mr. Clavin, asking you to reinstate Christy. As of right now, we have over 3,000 signatures. 3,000 signatures in January to equal a lot of votes in November. According to the patch, you only won your last election by 1,365 votes. And one of the candidates who ran in that election only got 1,270 votes. Numbers don't lie. I think I'll end my story with that, but I do want to put on the record that this is the petition, and it's got 3 pages of comments that the board may want to read, because this is what the people are saying, not what you are hearing from certain individuals. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Danielle Guzarov. How you doing? If you give your name and address, thanks.
Danielle Pizzardo, North Belmar. This photo is of Blue. He currently resides at Kennel 3 at the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter. As a longtime volunteer at the shelter, I spend my free time with Blue, training him, getting him fresh air, exercise, while helping him learn to trust humans. Months ago, I decided that Blue has been there for far too long and wanted to proceed with fostering him. But with a behaviorally challenged dog like Blue, that's no easy task. That is where I turned to Christy Fonte. Recognizing the challenges of this, she didn't back down. Christy herself put the time into working with Blue one-on-one, gaining his trust, and for the past several months, slowly acclimating Blue with my family dog. She helped educate me on the strategies of bringing Blue into my home safely. We were in the process of bonding Blue with my family when she was forced to resign by you, Supervisor Clavin. Now Blue will sit in the shelter, using up taxpayer dollars instead of being in my home. Blue and countless other dogs will suffer due to your cowardness to catering to one member of the public, and her demands that take into consideration personal vendettas over the welfare of animals. You have allowed this citizen to have an oversight in government decisions, which alone is mind-blowing, but now, just to slap it in our faces, you are again wasting tax dollars to pay your friend Charlie Malone to be her personal lackey, escorting her around the shelter. I'm not going to stand here under the delusion that you care at all about the animals. It's obvious that the animals at the shelter are nothing more than props for your photo ops. But now, by taking a dedicated, hardworking person like Christy Fonte from her role at the shelter, just to appease one member of the public, has enraged our community. Charlie Malone has stated that you, Supervisor Clavin, was the reason Christy Fonte has never been given a full-time position due to the demands that you are catering to from one person. Now you need to bring her back. Maybe the dogs of the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter are not registered voters, but I am, as are the purple shirts sitting here with me today. Our emotions are tied to the well-being of these animals who have no other voice but ours. Granted, the person you are catering to has a very loud one, but our voice will be louder as a collective group. Supervisor Clavin, this photo of Blue, I'm submitting it to you as a reminder of what you did to Blue and the other animals that will suffer from your actions. Help Blue and the other animals, or more important to you, save wasted tax dollars and save this board from having to listen to our protests that will not stop until you bring back Christy Fonte. Thank you.
Melissa Jackie? How you doing? If you give your name and address to the record, thanks.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank my friends and family.
Can you just give your name and address to the record? Thanks.
My name is Melissa Jaffe. I'm a Merrick tax-paying voting resident for almost 28 years. I have strong ties to my community. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my friends and family for watching via live stream. I am an involved, proud volunteer of Team Purple. A voice is a powerful tool, and as humans, we cannot accomplish anything by keeping quiet. Both Supervisor Clavin and town board members, we the volunteers, have stayed quiet way too long. Well, actually, since 2019 was the last time I spoke out for an injustice, and County Executive Bruce Blakeman was extremely helpful. I think this board has forgotten what was said at that very long board meeting. Tonight I will not rehash. I am here today to find out why Christy Fonte was not offered full-time. Although we were told the answer that a taxpayer has it out for her so badly that you will not put Christy's name on a resolution. Let me ask you this. Has Christy done something so horrible? Has she committed some act that you didn't offer her full-time? I would have to say no. Because you offered her a full-time desk position. You thought you could get rid of the situation by offering her all the bells and whistles by sitting at a desk. She is a competent dog trainer, so much so she has saved the town and taxpayers thousands in dismissed lawsuits. Her extensive knowledge was the reason these cases were dismissed. Isn't that the truth? The volunteers sent numerous emails where none of them were responded to. Why? Do you just pay attention to one taxpayer? Supervisor Cleveland, you have a secretary that earns $136,000 a year. Why didn't she respond? Something, anything, would have been better than silence. When the volunteers had a meeting with Charles Malone 1 week ago, his main concern was that his wife, your secretary, was reading our emails and that she was upset. Seriously? That's what she's upset about. By the way, he promised to get back to us within 48 hours. We're still waiting. We now know he is your longtime friend who you gave a $50 an hour position to. Why? What is he doing? Why do we need a liaison? And again, since we are still waiting for a response, is that what a liaison does? Listen and doesn't get back to you? We know that he was the director of the shelter, and we also know how that ended. We have the foils from 2003 to 2010. We are expecting more foils. We will not allow the shelter to go backwards, and that's exactly where we are headed if you do not stop this madness. Team Purple has a voice. We have a vast reach into the town of Hempstead. We all come from different towns with contacts in our religious affiliations, schools, neighbors, sporting teams, just to name a few. Please help us, Supervisor Cleveland and board members, to get our shelter back on track. Thank you.
Cynthia Exless, but you said that you didn't want to speak. Might be in the back. Okay. Next we're going to have Emil Barani. Emil. Hey, Mr. Barani, if you give me your name and address for the record, thanks.
Emil Varani, 65 Edgeworth Street, Valley Stream. Mr. Supervisor, when you came into office, you claimed on News 12 that there's no Republican machine in the town of Hempstead, but your actions dictate the opposite. You hired the son of Valley Stream Village Trustee and Nassau OTP Executive Director John Taffarelli. You hired the son of Valley Stream Village Justice Robert Vogel. You put Barbara DeGrace on the Housing Commission without listing any examples of her experience. You cited empty examples of her constituent services, but nothing specific because her resume is just public relations and being the wife of the current Republican leader of Valley Stream. It makes me wonder, do you have any friends who don't have village, town, or county jobs? Furthermore, you continue to bombast town residents with mailers, passport pictures, when most residents live near post offices, which are far more convenient for photos, and even sent out Anthony D'Esposito mailers about Narcan training to non-residents who don't even live in his district. It's no wonder why this town has a $53 million deficit. And it goes to show why you don't want a fair redistricting process. You don't want fair and equitable representation because that would be against the same Republican machine that controls you. And furthermore, the redistricting process has been a sham. There's been no social media posts, and the fact that the map makers weren't at the work session and still probably won't be here at the future meetings is disgraceful. And I hope that the town of Hempstead board members will make the right decision and grant more equitable maps to residents like the residents of Valley Stream and Elmont who are disenfranchised under the current maps. However, knowing the Republican machine, it's likely that you'll go to court for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Next I have Melania Montgomery. Okay, she could be in the back. Barbara Poors. Okay, Daria Palava. Emil Palava. Charlene Thompson. Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. All right, give me your name and address. How you doing? All right.
Supervisor, Deputy Supervisor, Council members. So my name is Charlene Thompson. I've been a resident of the town of Hempstead for 56 years. I've lived in Roosevelt, Freeport, the village of Hempstead, Uniondale, I graduated from Uniondale High School, and after I went off to William & Mary College and then Howard University Law School, I decided to settle in Walton. I've had the privilege of working in county government for 8 years, and then village government as commissioner of the CDA in the Incorporated Village of Hempstead for 4 years. And I've served my community in many capacities in various community positions and leadership roles. Today, I want to come before you to talk about the redistricting process, specifically talking about my hometown, Uniondale, and the segregation of Uniondale. So as we go forward and look at the redistricting maps, right now there is a proposal that Uniondale will be divided, segregating the commercial district from the residential portion. And I would caution, ask the town board to consider this very cautiously as they look at how Uniondale may be divided into these districts, because historically, you know, I've been a student of politics and government and understanding the interplay of political dollars and communities and how government, the role government has played in reshaping our communities. Grew up in Roosevelt, Pathmark, movie theater, your roller skating rink was wiped out to create Valdwell Court. A central part of our commercial base was gone, and then the burden, tax burden, was then shifted to the residents. And so when we look at shifting or segregating, I'll call it segregating, the central commercial business district in Uniondale, taking the voice away from very active civics in Uniondale by creating this new district and aligning all of these, I think Elmont is gonna, the race track is going to be in there along with Roosevelt Field, and Jeopardy already got it wrong, calling it East Garden City. So let me tell you what I envision happening. We create this new district, this centralized business district, partitioning Uniondale, and you'll get a new representative in there. And then you'll have the more affluent residents in that area advocate for a new designated census district and have that called East Garden City. Taking the dialogue and the conversation away from the people who have lived there and grown that community for decades. So I would caution you and ask you to take in sincere consideration when you draw the redistricting lines, not to segregate and take away Uniondale's voice with respect to one of its greatest assets, the Central Business District. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Thompson. I now have Dawn Beach. Okay. Ms. Steinberg? No? Okay. I don't have any other slips. Me? I'm going to ask that. I'll get through. Ms. Meredith, please go up to the mic. That'd be great. I will ask somebody to go to the back and ask them if the residents want to. Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that very much.
Peter J. Meredith Baldwin, resident, born and raised in Roosevelt. Just a point of correction. Someone advised a resident with regard to, I believe they lived in Rockville Center, about Nassau County. Howard Coppell is the Nassau County legislator who covers Rockville Center, not Kavan Abrahams. So.
No, but I think they were talking about the Lakeview on the west side. She was talking about where the repair shops are, and the deputy supervisor thought it was, you thought it was Kavan? We'll check.
Lakeview is Silvina. Either way, wrong thing. But again, you know, Town of Hempstead, which is in Nassau County, which I used to think was part of the United States of America, but now I'm truly beginning to wonder. I'm concerned, Supervisor Clavin, that the residents who are already underrepresented in the South Shore now, since, you know, that great map that your town attorney continues to say was, you know, the challenge was defeated, we became pretty much the poster child, and again, with the embarrassment that has now been brought upon us with the 3rd District lack of credentialing, and the joke is, how many people does it take to review candidates in Nassau County? I guess it's 0. But we need to take a stronger hand with regard to this map, and maybe if we can use some of that advertising dollar that we talked about. I got 4 mailings for the mulch process. four colored versions of compost and mulching, when I could have used one mailing with regard to this redistricting, which is all important. You know, let's start there. And again, we're hoping, because we're in contention in the county, we're in contention with the town. So since you probably may have heard from one or two people with regard to that, let's hope that you're now having a conversation with the presiding officer who said on the record that he called you about the date dispute. Again, it's on the record. You know, I was there when it happened. It's on the record. We're paying high-paid stenographers around here, so it's definitely on the record. That he called you about making a change when it was brought to his attention. So hopefully, as you're trying to figure out dates to let residents know, it seems that this February 7th is also the day of a actual board meeting for the town. So you're going to have a hot hearing in the first part, and then when residents show up, you're going to delay it for 2 weeks when residents aren't here, and then the board is going to bring it up because you're going to table it on the 7th, and then you're going to bring it up 2 weeks later when nobody's here because they have to work to pay these high taxes, and then vote it in. Is that how it's going to be? Again, I know you're not answering any questions, but I just want to make sure that it's on somebody's record, somebody's streaming this, somebody's taping this, because residents need to know, because these maps have to be done by the end of February. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meredith. Mr. Bertacci? How you doing, Union United Square?
Felix Bertacci, Franklin Square. The town's recent passport mailing, as usual, does not inform residents that most post offices provide the exact same services. For most residents, their local post office is closer to their home, and they're able to make their appointment online. Some post offices even have Sunday appointments. If Supervisor Clavin was really interested in helping people, as stated on the mailing, the town's passport mailings would provide this useful information to residents. The town's passport mailing is also fiscally irresponsible and environmentally unfriendly. Clavin touts clean energy projects, but when it comes to maintaining his name recognition, Clavin couldn't care less about the environment, fiscal responsibility, or providing comprehensive information to residents. A typical town-wide mailing costs about $60,000 and requires about 5,000 pounds of paper. Even if 500 residents attend the town's February 11th Passport Day, the taxpayer cost per application would be about $120. The money Clavin wastes on this and other self-promotional mailings could be better spent on a tree pruning program or fixing the town's roads.
Yes.
Residents should expect all politicians to tell the truth. And the truth is, Clavin is more concerned with his name recognition and his popularity than the environment or being fiscally responsible. At the last town board meeting, Comptroller Mastro Marino said there was no COVID-19 committee. At the November 16, 2021 town board meeting, Supervisor Clavin said there was a COVID-19 committee, and Comptroller Mastro Marino was on that committee. If you search through the town board resolutions, you will notice that the phrase, "whereas the town board has created a COVID-19 committee," appears over 50 times. Residents should expect on Clavin to tell the truth and not embellish himself by adding false statements to town resolutions and town mailings. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. McCutcheon. I know our residents, you didn't sign anyone right here?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Go, just give me your name and address, thanks.
Dan Carciolo, my pronouns are he, him, 8 Williamson Street, East Rockaway, New York. Just to kind of reinforce the lack of communication regarding the redistricting committee, I'd like to bring something up to everyone, including the board. There is a Facebook post that's currently sponsored that states Hempstead Town Supervisor Don Clavin joined local supervisors, Supervisor Jennifer DeSanta and Supervisor Joe Salentino to stand against Governor Kathy Hochul's expanded high-density housing plan for Long Island. And there's 2 links, and there's a really nice picture here about Save Our Suburbs. Save Our Suburbs is then a link to a change.org, which happens to be at the top of the town of Hempstead's website. There are 592 engagements, 293 comments, 161 shares. There isn't a single Facebook post regarding the districting and the redistricting of our town council. You are spending taxpayer dollars by sponsoring Facebook ads to drive a Republican-based ideal that we might lose a zoning board with a 3% density in Kathy Hochul's proposal. So we are outlining the vision here in this town, because we cannot look at equitable representation without communicating. When the libraries are getting the meeting times 12 hours before the actual meeting, we are doing an injustice to our overall community and township. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know a number of our residents came back in from Merrick, and I know that, Lori, we heard from you, and I was calling out, Joe, Carol, Brodsky, did we hear from you, Carol? Did you want to?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Joe Carol Brodsky. I live in Merrick. Right before this, a few of us spoke with the Parks Commissioner. He was very helpful in helping us resolve the safety issue at the John Street Park. But we were also directed that we would probably have to have one-on-ones with Councilman Carini. But since we're here, we all thought that we would get all the board members' ears. This, once again, is in reference to John Street Park. This is a plot of land that has basically become a community center for many of us in Merrick, especially starting with COVID. So what's happening now is a few of the neighbors who live right there have been complaining about the dogs. And as I said, the safety issue will be resolved. But, you know, I'm going to quote Supervisor Bosworth, well, then Supervisor Bosworth, when she put in place a new program in the town of North Hempstead, which I feel strongly that the town of Hempstead needs to adopt. As she said, they need to do something to make it convenient for dog owners and make it compatible for those who don't have dogs. The town of North Hempstead took 3 parks, not dog parks, 3 parks, and they now allow dogs in them, as long as the dogs are leashed, with a human, and cleaned up afterwards. Why can't we do something like that here? I respect my neighbors in that, you know, the early hours of people going in there can be disruptive. So why can't we find a compromise? Why can't the town of Hempstead come up with something that could, say, start at 10 o'clock? Something that makes everybody happy. Because we're neighbors, we're a community, we all have to think of each other. But both sides of the coin, the dog owners and the non-dog owners. Supervisor Bosworth back in 2015 started this as a pilot in 3 parks, and it was so effective and so well taken that it has stayed that way, once again, since 2015. So I don't know what we need to do to get this started, but in today's day and age, as we see when we go to malls, when we go anywhere, life has changed. You know, dogs just are factors of everything. As Lori said earlier, you know, it relates to mental health.
What they're doing in North Hempstead, you're saying, is they open up these parks, these
There were
parks
3
for
parks.
certain hours?
There were 3 parks: Mary Jane Davies Green in Manhasset, Michael J. Tully Park in New Hyde Park, and the North Hempstead Beach Park in Port Washington. Those are 3 parks that allow dogs now, as long as, once again, leashed, with a human being, and cleaned up afterwards. Why can't the town of Hempstead do something?
Listen, it's funny, I'm a big fan of Judy. You know, Judy, I talked to last week. I'm happy to reach out some great. Just so you know, in the last couple of years, we've actually opened up a number of dog runs throughout the town. Because I take my dog Brady out, and I like to go to dog runs.
This is like,
and I get what you're saying. I'm happy to reach out to Judy to talk about the program, and Chris is great. He can talk to you. Maybe there's a happy medium, but you're right. It's a great start. You know, Chris is a great councilman, very involved in it. And like I said, if we can find a happy medium, so Frank's a good guy. He's a good parks commissioner. You know what? If maybe Chris wants to direct that you coordinate, you know, a meeting with somebody from staff. And Chris, I don't want to jump on that. What do you think?
Can you guys stick around for like 5 minutes after the meeting? Us, your group, and Frank will go to the back for a couple minutes, and we'll have a discussion, we'll see what we can do. Obviously, we're gonna have to speak amongst all of us, because I think the issue here is there was a liability factor. Am I correct? That's the reason why.
Well,
and listen, maybe there's a happy medium.
the leash, if we keep them on a leash, perhaps.
Well,
No, that's what I'm saying, like, you know,
possible
he's
medium.
right, he's like,
We'll go in the back, we'll discuss it, we'll see, we'll talk with the town attorneys, maybe it's a pilot program, possibly, I have to see that, but if you can stick around for about 5 minutes after the meeting, grab your group, we'll grab Frank, we'll go to the back, okay?
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I have, this guy's talking about insurance policies. I have Lee Brodsky. Okay, I got you. Melissa talked earlier. Did Barbara Forrest talk earlier?
Yeah, but no, I didn't, but she really said a lot of the things that I would have said.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Did Daria talk earlier? Daria want to talk? Okay. No? Same thing? Gotcha. And then I have Emil. Did you want to talk? No? Okay. Okay. That's all the slips I have. Is there anybody that did not sign in or has not already spoken that want to be heard? If not, I will tell everybody thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. And for those residents of Merrick, if you go in the back and Councilman McCready will facilitate a meeting. Thank you all very, very much.
Okay, outside? We'll be right outside the door.
Yes.